Welcome everyone back to the channel. Now firstly, before I get stuck into the Pole Fishing Masters review, I just want to apologise for not getting regular content back on my YouTube. I've been really busy with work, getting back in full time now, and I've been trying to get my membership channel up and running. It's took a lot of my time up. Now one thing, I had a few YouTube videos in the bank saved up, but I ran out of them and I just ran out for a few weeks, so I do apologise. But a few people ask me where's the content gone and what am I doing, and am I giving it up? I'm not giving it up, I've just been lazy and I need to get back on it. Now I've spent a bit of time, scheduled some days in to get some YouTube channels back out for you guys and get you catching loads of fish again. So that's the apologies out the way. I am sorry, but we're back on it now and we're back fishing. So we've got a few things coming up. I'm going to film a few today, a few in a few days. So we're going to get back out on the bank and get some content for you. Now the reason for this video today is I've just literally fished probably one of my favourite events of the year. Is the Daiwa Pole Fishing Masters at Tunnelbarn Farm. Now for me, I've fished this event every year since I think it was 2015, it was the first year, and I've fished it every year. And for me, it's the creme de la creme of F1 fishing sort of style. All the best anglers go. You get from the south, the Midlands, the north, everyone comes down, and just it's a great competition. Now I was lucky enough to win it back in 2018. Now in 2019 I had a near miss, which was my fault, I think. I'm quite critical of stuff. It's my fault. £11 cost me one day, which could have won me the festival, but like, look at it, last year was a bit of a disaster. I don't even know where I come last year, but I don't like blaming the draw, but I feel like I do some areas and I didn't fish very well, got a few tactics wrong. So this year I really wanted to get things right. Now I put a lot of time in preparation and practicing, and people that know me will laugh. I don't really prepare thousands of hooks and thousands of rig. I always have enough for what I need for. So what I mean by this is I don't have 20, 25 rigs. I have, say, 8 to 10 rigs of the same thing, just so I've got enough for the 3 days of the fishing. Same with the hook lengths, probably 30, 40 hook lengths. If I need to tie some more, I can just stay on after the match and tie some more. Now, it's one thing about being prepared, but one thing for me is really important. The preparation and stuff at home side, it's important, but getting out on the bank and practicing is really important. So what I mean by this is, when I rocked up on the Friday to Tunnelbarn, now I like to go for a few days. Now, luckily enough, I got a coaching day with Warren and John on Friday. We had a cracking day on high pool, lovely fishing, great people, had a load of laughs. One thing, they wanted me to get my gear out, so I got soaked, but they got nice and dry. Then we went for a little Chinese afterwards, watched the England game. So that was a mint day, that was. So, but one thing I learned a lot from that day, so that's really important. I got down there early, so I got down there Friday and fished. I coached Friday and fished the match Saturday, which is a bit of a story about that, which we'll talk about. Fished the open match Sunday, which is a really big learning curve, and then it's obviously the Masters on the Monday. So going back to what I meant is about practicing. Now, with sort of the style of fishing, the F1 fishing, it's going to be feeding with pots, catapults or throwing. Now for me, if I've got enough gear in my hook length box, I want to be going there knowing if I throw some maggots at 6 metres, it's all grouped nice and tight. If I'm going to fish with kinder pots, I know which pot I've got all the right pots, I can sprinkle it out, clump it out, make sure I'm nice and accurate, fishing on the same spot. I've got some tape on my pole, so I'm in a nice and accurate area. And also cattying. Now this is really important in the festival, which I'll talk about, but cattying and grouping your bait. Now with the recent times, say like I like to use like partridge and stuff like that. I see everywhere, I look around at all the results, but I like to use partridge because it's a bit harder, it's a lot more pressured than tunnel. And they're catching a lot of fish in the grass. And what I mean by grass is a cover to the far bank. So I thought, well, that might play a massive part. Everywhere you were catching, when I went to Lindholm the other week, you're catching in cover. All the fish are in cover. Now it seemed that the weather was going to drop a little bit and go a bit cooler, so the fish might have dropped out the cover, but you can't go there thinking, oh, they'll drop out. You've got to see for yourself. Now, like I said, I'm going to start through all the practice days, what I learned, how I went about it, and then obviously I'm going to go for each day of the Pole Masters, summary of what went on, what I could have done better, who won, all that stuff. Now, on the Friday, like I said, I had a great day with John and Warren on high pool peg 15. We caught loads of fish on Castor Shallot, learnt a lot about my rigs that day, bit of bristle grease on the float, nice and stable. Maggot short as well, we caught a lot on that. And just learnt a lot about the day. And one thing as well, when I got out of the car at Tunnel, it just felt it was a little bit cooler. and a little bit more fishy. Now, we're not talking 200, 300 pound weights, we're talking 80, 90, maybe 100 pound weights. And this for me makes it a really interesting match because it opens up a lot more pegs. So what I mean by that is, say there's a 5 peg section, instead of 1 peg being a flyer, there could be 3 or 4 pegs you could win off, but you might have to do something right, or someone makes a mistake, or you have to get a bit of luck and you have to fish in the right way. Now, going on, like I said, we had watched the football Friday, had a Chinese with Warren and Warren, John, Jamie. We were in the lodge together, having a Chinese. Now, when on the Saturday morning, this is a funny story, the draw for the match is a rolling draw, and then it's 10:30 till 3:30. Now, I've literally just started working nights. I don't know whether it was that, I don't know whether it's because I was just overtired or the Premier Inn's beds are just nice. I slept in, and the time I got there was I got there at 11:05. Now, I went in the shop, Paul's in there, he's drawn me 15 high pull. Now, this is a peg I coached on the day before, and it's an absolute screamer. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I've done amazing, because the peg has done it itself. Literally set up the same again, short on maggots, casters to the reeds. Had a nice simple day, caught like 25 fish in about 2 hours, shallow to the reeds, and then just swapped and changed throughout the day and caught, I think it was 48 fish for 109 pound. This won the match. Now, I'm being very lucky and jammy. I think it's one of them days I was sat there halfway through thinking, surely I can't win today, but luckily I've been on the best peg in the match. Hands down, I've caught on shallow, on casters, didn't need to set it up. I probably had a bit of time rushing round, just been nice and positive, and I won the match. So a nice little start for that. Then I had 5 Scottish lads coaching the same peg after the match. Had a lot of laughs there, learned a little bit more again. Great time with the guys. So then it was to Sunday. Now, I was up on time this time. I made sure I got up, and I've gone in and Paul's drawn me peg 12 and house pull. Now, 12 and house, I felt like that's a really good learning peg, that is, because I can catch in the edge, short pole, maybe a bit of long pole shallot if the fish want to feed. That's when you need to understand what baits to be fishing with. Will it be casters shallow? Will it be maggots shallow? Will it be maggots on the bottom short? Will it be ground bait and pellets in the edge? It's just stuff you're trying to get out of your head and trying to learn a little pattern. Now, when I drew, Paul told me I was next to Paul Allen. Now, this is probably the best thing that could have happened on that Sunday. Paul is like so intense, he's so on it. He's a cracking angler, probably one of the best F1 anglers around, and a good mate of mine. And I literally walked up the bank. I thought in my head I'll try and get him rattled up so he fishes his heart out so I can just see what he's up to. I'm not saying he's trying to copy him, or I'm just trying to see what he's up to, because I know he's so in tune with it. He films so much with his match focus. So I've walked up the bank and told him I was going to smash him up. Now, that is probably the worst thing I've ever done, and I did it the other night on the open match. I told Andy Amos I was going to smash him up, and I just got absolutely ruined by him. So I think I'm not stopped going to doing that, but it is funny. But I told him if I beat him, I was going to do Ronaldo at him, the Ronaldo celebration. So he's all fired up, and he's absolutely destroyed me. He's caught on maggot short, through casters in the edge. Now, this is really important, one thing. I watched his match focus, and I knew casters was good in the edge. So I thought, well, I've got the idea, I know it's good. So I'm going to go there with the open mind. I threw it down the right edge, and I've not had a line, and I had a bite a few times off it. Lost a few fish, fished the wrong size float short. I should have fished with 4x14, tried to be clever and fish 4x12. That's my own fault, out my head. So then I know, all right, my feeding was fine, my grouping. I know what areas of the peg I'm going to the pegs next day with the right bait and the right idea and frame and a brilliant idea of what to fish. Now, yeah, Paul's absolutely destroyed me. He had 109, I can't think I had what I had, 72. I got double default. Mark Lyons won the match that day, actually. And I coached him the night before, so he's won his money back, the Scottish goddess as he is. And so he's won his money back. He won the match with 117 on peg 4 house. So Paul was, I think he was 4th. So I got my double default. So paid for my thing. I got a free lesson off Paul. So then we're going to move on to the Masters now. Right, so the first day of the Pole Masters, like I said, I was up early, nice and time. Shot off to lanes, got some quality bait off them guys, massive casters, massive maggots. Thank you to Wayne, because he must get mad for to death, to be fair. I just literally messaged him, it's all sorted out, go in there, everyone's so chatty, so welcoming, so thank you everyone at Lanes as well. I just want to say that, they're great guys, and to be honest, the bait is the must. I'd drive there from the moon to get that bait. Now the first day, Tom's drew me 15 on canal, which anyone that knows Tunnel Barn is a narrow side of canal. There's two sides, obviously it's just like a strip down with an island in the middle. One side's quite narrow, about 10 metres wide, 11 metres wide. The other side's about 14 metres wide, say. But the one thing, I had a little reed bed. Now Andy Bennett won the lake on peg, I think he won the lake, or was he second on the lake? He's second on the lake on peg 17. It's got a little bit bigger reed bed, so I spoke to him and he said, oh, you'll catch a few shallow in the reeds across on casters. And then Christian spoke to me and he said he caught really well on maggots down the middle. Now this is the sort of information you're going to need when you're going. Like, I had a feeling I was going to fish maggots down the middle. But when someone's been on that lake the day before and caught a few on it, said they caught some big fish, it just sets the confidence in your head. Like, I was only passing when I spoke to Bennett and Christian. They were only passing, said, oh, I caught a few on maggots. It's just that information you've got to take and be confident with your fishing. So I thought, right, simple plan, cast a shallow across, see what I can catch on that reed bed, try and catch underneath it, because it wasn't really, it was about, say 2.5 foot, 2 foot maybe, I can't remember to the depth, be precise, but it's 2 to 2.5 foot, so it's a little bit too shallow really to fish into cover. I plumbed it down the middle to my right at about 11 metres, just right down the middle, because it's so narrow there, it's about 9 metres, 10 metres wide. I could throw my casters to the far bank, that's how close it was. And then what I've done is, I know I've been on canal before, so what I've done is, what happens there is there's a massive plateau before it just drops off slightly into the deeper water. Now it's not very deep down the middle, it's about 3 foot, but this plateau is about 2 and a bit foot and it comes out of fairway. So I've just thought, you know what, I'll just throw some casters off that edge of that reed bed like I've done yesterday and I should catch a few there. Now I've been really lucky, I've caught some across early on casters. I think I got to like 15 fish shallow in the grass, catching like 8 to 12 inches deep, just nice and steady, lift and drop, feed some bait, lift and drop, catch them that way. And then it's been really tricky to catch them. Now, I've caught a fair few fish on that cast line to the left, that's probably got me out of jail, and I've caught really well on maggots down the middle. So like I said, that information is valuable to your fishing. You've got to put it into practice and make sure it's right on the day. And everything I've caught has been huge. I've caught 35 fish, all F1s, massive things. And I weighed 88 pounds, 10 ounce. Now this is important for the day because I had Preston Angler next to me, Mickey Rogerson. He's fished a lovely match. I swear he'd have beat me. He's caught loads of little stockies. That's probably cost him the size of his fish, which you can't help. There's fish in your peg. He's caught loads of stockies across on worms, feeding little balls of soil, catching them like that. And he's weighed 88 pounds, 8 ounces. So I've been lucky to win my section by 2 ounces that day. So I'm thinking, well, I've been a bit lucky there, but then the thing is, I made a few mistakes. I maybe should have had a bit of worm mix set up, so maybe would have caught sometimes on my right edge. It wasn't very good down there. I've tried throwing casters that way, wasn't right. Tried throwing maggots, didn't work. Tried fishing ground bait and micros, and it just felt as though like it was a nothing line. Maybe I fished a bit of worm, and looking back, everyone that's caught on that day on that canal has caught a few fish on worms. So maybe that's just a lesson. I should just had it set up, just so thingy. But I've got the knowledge of it now. So I know if I go back next year, I've have it all set up and all ready to go. Now the second day, obviously going in from a section win, I was really pleased. There's only one you want. You just want to keep ticking them section wins to give you a chance of winning. Now the second day, I drew peg 4 on Newpool, which is funny enough. I drew that on the last day of the last Pole Masters. Now once again, it's quite narrow. So one thing I've really learned about fishing at the Masters last week was peg management. And what I mean by this is just fishing certain areas, not affecting other lines. So simply, I spoke to Gary, who's on it the day before. And one thing, sorry, I forgot to say, Paul Allen won the match on the Monday. Well done to him. I just forgot to say that. I really do apologise, because he was next to Gary on 4. So Paul Allen won the match on 7 the day before. I was on 4 the next day. Spoke to Gary, said it's really good short, said he messed up a few lines but he caught really well short. So I thought, right, well, that makes it simple. I can fish short down the middle, and then I'm literally going to have like a 2-pronged attack across and edges. So I'm not going to, it's like a 5 on a dice. I'm not going to fish too close to myself. I'm going to fish 13 that way, 13 that way, 7 metres that way, 6 metres that way. So I've got all my lines are away from each other. Now I've started across in the far bank with ground bait and micros and maggots on the hook. I spoke to Paul about that. So Paul put me on the information for that. And then literally I fished maggots down the middle then for a little bit, caught a few fish. I think I fed it too aggressively to start with, and this is one thing I learned about the day. So I fed it fed it a little bit too aggressive, caught a few fish in it, and then they backed off a little bit. I couldn't really get bites. Now I've caught some fish shallow on a reed bed, probably 5 or 6 fish shallow on a reed bed, nothing underneath them this time. But then the really interesting thing, I think I got to like 20 fish, and I thought, right, come on, I need to tick over. So I dropped in the right edge where I've been throwing casters, not had a sign, not moved, not had a bite. So I thought, that's strange. That was my little banker that I've been catching well. And I was quite confident, because when you figure out little new things and you see it, Paul catching on it, you caught on it the day before, you just get a lot of confidence in your method. I dropped in the right where I've been feeding ground bait and micros with 3 maggots on the hook, caught 2 fish. Now, for some reason, I've literally just put some ground bait over my caster line just because I felt the fish were coming in. Couldn't catch on that, dropped back on my caster line after feeding a small nugget of ground bait, had a run of 6 fish, all massive again, and I'm thinking, that's just drawing them in that, so I've caught steady on that. And then late on, one thing I learnt massively is, across lines died, now it's really short, I didn't want to force them too much, so I'd be dragging fish here and everywhere, so just made a decision just to fish short down the middle late on, and the edges, just to catch some fish, and that's the only place where the fish are going to come. With it being so narrow, you don't want to put every line in late on, you've got to focus on an area and catch them. So I fished down the middle late on, I've caught really well, just coming a bit short, feeding like 10 maggots twice, really taking my time, 4x12 was only 3 foot deep, catching some massive F1s. I think I had 8 in the last 13 minutes, that's how well it was late on. 13's jaw slip, hit them, just lift them up and net them. No messing around and bombing down your peg, just nice and steady, nice and smooth. Now, I feel like I learned a bit about my feeding that day, and I've been far too aggressive at the start, but one thing I want to touch on, I hadn't lost a fish in 2 days, so I thought, right, with feeding confidently and catching fish. Now, I think Christian won the match that day on 23 on canal fishing to cover. He had 123, I think. I'm not too sure. I think so. I think he did, yeah. And I've weighed 96 pounds, which won the section, luckily, by 2 pounds this day. So I've been really lucky over 2 days. I had 2 ounce and 2 pounds. Now, Warren Jennings on 10. He's caught really well late on. He had 94 pounds, so unlucky pal, but it's just been so close. Now, day 3 was a bit touch and go day. You're going into the last day knowing if you get a good draw, you've got a chance of winning the festival, and that's what we're coming for in that festival. Now, I've gone up to the draw, and Tom has drawn me peg 1 on club. Now, I wasn't even disappointed. I thought, well, that's a nice peg that. I know it hadn't caught, there's a carp down here then. I know it hadn't caught the 2 days previously, but I felt like it had a cover. It was an M peg, the wind was coming down there. 23 caught the day before, there could be some fish there. Now that side of club's been really hard. I think Mikey Williams won the section the day before, and peg 3's done really well there. He's caught on worms, so I spoke to Mikey. He'll say I didn't listen to him, but there's one thing I want to touch on in a minute. So I've set up, thinking, right, I'll set up maggots short, casters to the reed bed, and that and worms up the edge. I thought, right, I know what the methods are now, I know I'm not going to make a mistake. Jamie Hughes has drawn 15 on high pull, so I went and seen him, showed him where I fished on the thing. He told him you're catching hard pellets to the right, to the left, sorry, really nice peg, and I had a feeling he's going to do biggest weight of the week. Now, one lesson I learned about going to see Jamie is, we've fished together for years and I've been to Tunnel a lot, and he just said, it's just these little things that people say and you think, yeah, I'm going to try that. He just said, oh, just try hard pellets down the middle to start with. I caught some stockies on it. So I thought, right, I'll just start on that. Just so it's a nice little start. I didn't really have an island to fish to. I had a reed bed on the end of the island, so I had no shallow water to go in to start off with. So I might as well just start down the middle. So I started down the middle to the right, 7 metres. It's in the shade at the start. Got in with some hard pellets, and I've caught 12 F1s the first hour. And I'm not talking little stockies. They're all massive, probably 30 pound of fish. And I thought, I'm going to get away with it here, I think, because some fish here, the fish are feeding. I thought, I haven't even gone on my shallow line or underneath it yet. I haven't come on maggot short, I haven't gone up the bank, and I've got 30 pound a minute. I thought, right, keep ticking over, I can. Gone on the bottom underneath my casters, caught 3 fish dead quick, and then it's been really hard to catch anything. I've not had a bite up the right edge, apart from a few little stockies. I had 1 on maggot short that was just random throughout the day. I just dropped on it trying to get a bite, and I caught one massive thing, but I never had a run late on. And I caught 5 fish shallow late on the reed bed, so I've ended up with 25 fish, which went 65 pound. Now this won the section, luckily enough again. I think the guys on the other end have caught really well, but I've just done enough to beat, and I think I think I had 65, they had 58. So look, once again, I've been quite lucky. Now, throughout the match, Tom was coming up saying it was between me and Mitch Davison for the pole masters and the weight, and I just felt I needed a little run to get me over the line, and I just never caught it. Now, at the end of the match, I never felt like I knew I'd done enough, because I think that cost the effort. There's no way Mitch is going to catch. I think he'd catch more than 75 pound off his peg. Now, weighed in, won the section, 3 points, and thinking, right, well, that's top three really confirmed. I didn't know what really went off, so top three confirmed. I thought I gotta be pleased with that. Then I've come down. Mitch has weighed 83 pound, and he's won his section, so he's beaten by 8 pound for the overall result. So well done to Mitch. It's a funny story. He texted me last week having a moan about 21 on Canal, and I just texted him saying, don't matter, you'll win the Masters. I had the same thing when I won. I was having a really low spell, really time where I wasn't feel like I wasn't not good enough to catch him, and then he just turned up, won the Masters, won himself 3 grand and a nice AirZ pole. So well done, Mitch, brilliant result, and pleased for him, cracking lad, and it's a good job. I know him so well because I'd have gone up to him and given him an arm wrestle otherwise, but no, I'm only joking. He'd done so well. The 8 pounds, not. It's one of them things. I haven't really lost a fish in 3 days, so I can't really moan. Maybe I'm being so particular from saying, oh, I should have caught a few more in that short line at Newport. It's because you're in the moment. You're trying to catch them so quickly. You're not trying to think about the next day. It's easy to look back straight away. Now, so Mitch has come first. I end up second in the festival. Now, it's one thing I want to touch on. I was a bit gutted, to be honest. If I was being truthfully honest, a bit gutted not to win. I think you're going to be if you go into them things and you get so close and you just miss over the hurdle. But I can't moan too much because Paul Allen's at absolute. It's just horrible, really. What happens is the guy puts so much time and effort in. He's a great guy. Does so much for the fishing. So learns so much off him, and he lost by 11 ounce. Now I feel that's just unlucky and horrible. But I know he's going to be back and he'll have that name of the trophy. So unlucky to Paul. I just want to say he's a fantastic angler, and I've learned a lot off his match focus. So one thing, he's just a great guy. Now, I think Steve Barraclough was third. Sorry, Steve Barraclough was third. He done really well, 3 section wins, and then Jack Danby was fourth with 3 wins as well. So that was the top 3. Now, one thing I want to touch on is about. I'll be brutally honest. I was a bit gutted, and it was hard to take it first. I thought, oh, I come so close again to try and thingy, but you got to think in that company. There's a lot of great anglers, and you can't be too gutted about it. Like the year before, I was gutted because I did rubbish. Now this year, I'm gutted because I come second, and I think I've got to not give myself a bit more praise, but I've got to be more positive and think, right, well, there's a few things I've done really well, a few things I learned, a few things I'm going to take into my fishing. Now, one of the things is I was driving home, obviously a bit gutted, all that stuff, and I thought the next day, it's 6 days of intenseness for me. Like, you're on it all the time, you're thinking about fishing, you're having a few beers at night, you're going out and we watched the football, had a laugh, had a great time with all the lads in the hotel. Just Gally Moore, just a nightmare, but he's an absolute legend of a lad. I shared a room with him. If anyone wants to share a room with him next year, let me know and I'll book you in with him, because he's a nightmare. But the one thing I learned, I went for a walk the day after just to relax and get away from it all. There's no phone signal up there. I just thought, I've got to go for a walk. And one thing I listened to is Danny Fairbrash's podcast, which is on I think it's the Thinking Tackle one. It's at 49, the number, where he talks about melanoma cancer, but he talks about something else, which that melanoma cancer thing is important, and it's a great thing he's gone on there and said. But there's another thing which I took, which was quite inspirational, is about talking about when he's carp fishing. He says about he's obsessive about the things he's done wrong than the things he's learned. Now, this is one thing I always try and fish in my fishing. It just twigged when I was walking along and made me give that kick up the arse sort of thing, is instead of thinking, oh, I haven't caught well enough, I missed out by 8 pounds, just think about the right things I did. Like, did I pick up the right rig? Did I feed her out the amount of bait? Did I fish the pots? Like, I've learnt a lot about, I should have had some worms set up. Maybe I would have caught a few more pounds each day if I just tapped some worms in and caught a few fish mid-match. That's the sort of thing. Now, I did it on the Wednesday and I didn't really catch on it, so it's hard to say in hindsight, but just going back, just learning from it. We've had an enjoyable time. We weren't in lockdown, we weren't locked up, we were fishing. It's one thing that's important now. If you get the chance, listen to that podcast. It's inspirational, to be honest. And it's one thing I'm going to take in my fishing, is just be positive about the things you've done and not the outcome, which you can't. You think he talks about the outcome that you haven't got no control over. Now I've got no control over what Mitch catches. If I had, I'd run down the bank and nick his pole, but I haven't. So I can't dwell on the fact that I've lost by £8. Like, it's just one of them things. The only thing I can do is maybe me fish a bit better, me make the decision, me be prepared, maybe set a bit of worms up next time. And that's the thing I'm going to learn. I'm going to write down a little book, go next year and do it again. But once again, lads, I just want to say, listen to that podcast if you haven't, because it's a real eye-opener for me. It relaxed me and made me hungry to go again. So that was my pole fishing report. I want to say well done to Mitch again. He's done brilliantly. Fine display. It's in the Masters, Pole Masters champion, so he's done brilliantly. And I did tell him to get on them matches, so he's on them now and he's loving it. So well done, Mitch. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the bank soon.